I have been painting since I was about 12 years old. I'm 27 now, and over the past summer I came back to the place of my birth, the place I started painting, my childhood bedroom, aka my first studio and my now storage unit. Whenever I come home, I inevitably spend a very long time digging through the literal hundreds of sketchbooks and canvases from the past 15 years of my life that I have stored here, reorganizing them, trying to remember what I used to think and want, getting both jealous of and slightly concerned by my old self, and being continually surprised by how young I used to look in all these self-portraits. Heads up, you are going to see so many of my old self-portraits in this video. Now, this particular visit, I was just here for a week, but I managed to do a whole lot of archive digging and a good amount of new painting as well. There is just something about looking at old paintings that makes me so energized to make new stuff. And that brings us to this windowsill. I have done probably close to 10 or so paintings of this windowsill over the past 5 years, but most of those paintings I was referencing photographs, so I was really excited that I was going to be staying here for a little while and would have the chance to actually sit in front of them and paint them from life. A few hours in on this first painting, and I started thinking about my next painting, another windowsill, and I had a very specific desire for it. When in my bed, I look at the plants on the windowsill from a very specific perspective, and I've taken a lot of pictures of the plants from this perspective over the years. The problem is that I've never really liked to use any of these pictures as reference photos because this part of the photos I do not like. I have tried to work around this before with this little L-shaped panel. I was like, well, I can just literally cut the part of the composition that I don't like out. Well, I don't know. It was a good attempt, but now I was thinking that I had a better solution. I love this kind of little problem solving that making art brings out of you. There are the simple problems, like how do I get rid of the parts of the composition that I don't like? And they have simple answers like turn the canvas on a diagonal. But then, of course, there are the much more complicated problems. One of these complicated problems that has been a problem for me and for a lot of other people I know is not tied to any one painting itself, but is more tied to how to paint as a whole. How do I make the time and space to make art in the first place? Sitting in a studio with a canvas and a free hour ahead of you is one thing, but how do we even get to that place where we have a studio and a free hour ahead of us? Especially as adults who probably have a lot of other stuff going on. It's a great question. Everyone should share their tips for this in the comments if you have any. These are my tips. Tip 1, you don't need a studio. You need a corner, a couple of feet of floor space, a wall. If you don't have any of those things, bundle up and get outside. The times in my life I haven't had a studio or an inside space I could reasonably use, I have gotten a lot of landscapes done, let me tell you. And tip number 2, embrace the creativity of it. We are artists after all. You tell someone you make stuff and they respond saying, oh my gosh, you are so creative. And it always sounds a little bit infantilizing for some reason, but they aren't wrong. We are creative people, and creative people know how to think creatively not only about their work, but also about their life. You think about how you can structure your life in a way that will maximize the time and energy you have for your creative pursuit. Are there things you can sacrifice? Things other people might not think reasonable to sacrifice. I, for example, am currently sacrificing many of the benefits that come along with holding a full-time job. Things like employer-matched contributions to a retirement plan, for example. Yeah, you know, the line between creativity and stupidity is definitely thin, but I do love to walk that line. Actually, I used to really love slacklining, so it is kind of the same thing. You know, walking a slightly freaky line. That was an extremely stupid comparison. Do not listen to me. Now, everyone is going to be able to give different things up, and you absolutely don't have to quit your full-time job anytime soon to be an artist. Most artists I know have a full-time job, and the sacrifices one is able to make will fluctuate a lot over their life. Like for me, from about age 21 to 23-ish, the main thing I was able to sacrifice were my evenings. I also, during that time, lived in someone's basement, which I remember being a little embarrassed by, but it meant that my rent was so wonderfully cheap, which meant I could also afford a cheap little studio space in the back of a barn. No heat, lots of sawdust, but that is what was manageable then, and being able to do that meant the world to me, so that's what I did. I will say though, I do feel like that is even a way bigger step than you need to take. It's fine to start small, and that doesn't make you any less of an artist. Start by sacrificing one weekend. Don't make any plans for one weekend. Protect that weekend at all costs. Do your laundry and your grocery shopping and life admin crap during the week and just make art that whole 2 days. I'm realizing now that while it's a complicated problem, my answer to it is pretty simple. My answer was essentially to just make art even if you don't feel like you have the space or time for it, which maybe sounds impossible, but I think once you start, one of the great things about dedicating time to creative pursuits is that they are literally creative pursuits. They add to your life. They can give you so much more energy than they take. Day 4. A little chaos is helpful, but the state of the room was definitely starting to stress me out, so I did some consolidating, during which I found yet another old stack of drawings. They didn't have dates on them, but something tells me I probably did them whatever year Les Mis came out. These next ones are all from when I was 10, 11, 12-ish, and I'm pretty sure they all came from me following one of those popular step-by-step how-to draw books, which I wouldn't necessarily recommend, but clearly it got me started. If you are a kid and you are as lucky as I was in having parents who were excited to support my interests, parents who signed me up for extra art classes and bought me supplies, if you are lucky enough to be in that situation, take full advantage of it. I would be in such a different place now if I hadn't had that. But to those kids out there, don't let having all that make you complacent. Work hard and do it now while you are young. You will never have as much time and energy as you have right now, so use it wisely. If you are a kid and you feel like you don't have that, start by talking to your art teacher at school. Maybe even ask if they have extra supplies that you could take home with you. I taught for a couple of years and I loved it when kids would ask for that. At the very least, you can get your hands on printer paper and a number 2 pencil, and you can get an infinity of things done with just that. Now, if you are an adult, maybe you made a lot of stuff when you were a kid, but you took a break and want to get back into it. It's hard. It's hard to get back into things. It's hard to build something new into a busy life, but you want it because you know that it will give you something that nothing else in your life can. You have the desire to do it for a reason. Trust that desire. Do it. Okay. Bye.